Manchester United will be on the agenda for about the next 30 minutes. Their hunt for a new manager continues. Got to say, personal frustrations over this as a Manchester United fan. The board reported today at Manchester United a split over who to appoint as their manager this summer. Maurizio Pochettino and Erik ten Hag supposedly split those opinions. Julian Lopetegui is involved. Luis Enrique as well, also on the shortlist. And we'll talk about Ralf Rangnick and what he's going to do next at the club as well, because it seems like he's being edged out a little bit. Just before we move on, Danny, what do you think about what Ralf Rangnick has been doing at Manchester United? He clearly won't be the new boss, but do you have issues over how they've been playing?
Not really sure what his role ever was. I obviously know he's head coach, but what was the role going to be after that? Because it was always going to be, a consultant of something?
A 2-year consultancy role. And everyone assumed that meant
Director of football.
A director of football. He's done the role very well before at RB Leipzig and other clubs as well. He was doing the job at Lokomotiv Moscow when Manchester United poached him, so it seemed like that would be the natural thing. But he's come to Manchester United, hasn't really pulled up any trees in the dugout, and then that does bring the question up, should he be involved in choosing the future of the team when, given he's had an opportunity to put his own mark on the team, he hasn't really done anything?
I think that's two completely different roles. So, David Gill, one of the best chief executives ever, you'd put him in charge of picking the next manager and doing this and doing that and all the rest of it, that type of thing, not an issue. I wouldn't put him in the dugout, though, just because he's watched 1,000 games or whatever it's what. It's a completely different role, and that sporting director one.
So it was a mistake to put him in the dugout.
Well, but yes, it was probably. You look at the likes of Frank Arneson, that were fantastic. Sporting directors, director, whatever you want to call their roles.
Technical directors.
Yeah, in the early days, perfect for that role, but not great coaches or great in the dugout or whatever it might be. So the roles are so vastly different that could he now step upstairs without a shadow of a doubt and continue to do the sort of work that he's done obviously through the Red Bull system? Yeah, I don't doubt he could do that.
So you think definitely keep him at the club?
I would. Well, why would you bring him in the first place? The experience that he's got
we know Manchester United make a lot of mistakes.
Well, yeah.
So this could just be the latest one.
The experience that he's had of building a club, building all that goes with it, from top to bottom, why would you not tap into that knowledge? I think that would be absolutely vital.
Let's speak to Lars Sivertsen, our European football expert, and take a look at some of those, not Ralf Rangnick, who may possibly be appointed as Manchester United boss soon. Hi, Lars.
Good evening, gentlemen. Just enjoying that from Danny. Very sensible thoughts on Rangnick. I thought I agreed with all of that. Very good.
It's a rare occasion.
You can come again, Lars. You can come again.
But it is strange, isn't it? You've hired this great club builder and put him in temporary charge. It seems like a very strange way of using him, I have to say, from my sort of Europhile perspective as well.
Let's talk about these managers then. We know the shortlist: Erik ten Hag, Julian Lopetegui, Maurizio Pochettino, Luis Enrique. I guess you can throw in Thomas Tuchel to that as well, given the uncertainty over Chelsea's future. And there have been reports that for many, he's the favourite as well. Maybe this is a sense of a lack of direction. Where do you see things right now?
I think Manchester United need to decide on what kind of club they want to be and what kind of team they want to put together. So if we're talking about Maurizio Pochettino, who gets linked an awful lot, if Manchester United want to, for instance, there was a period under Solskjaer when they were prioritising signing hungry young English players, young predominantly British players. If they want to go back to that sort of strategy and build a team in that way, Pochettino would be a great appointment. If you look at what he's made his name doing at Southampton, at Tottenham, is that taking a young group of players and making them run through walls for him and for each other and creating a really hungry, effective pressing system. at PSG has had a much more difficult time because dealing with the massive egos in that dressing room. I mean, I think that is very possibly an unmanageable squad anyway. I'm not sure it's put together in a way any coach can make much out of. But certainly Pochettino has struggled because he has to work in a completely different way. Now, if United want to keep, signing big name superstars because it's good for the brand, which the bringing Cristiano Ronaldo back, suggests that that's something a way they're thinking about. I'm not sure Pochettino would be right for that. But if they want to go back to their roots a little bit and focus on a bit of youth and hunger and people, then Pochettino seems like a really interesting choice for that.
What would you think about that?
I'd agree with Lars. I said to you beforehand, when we were looking at this, I think if you're looking at long-term strategy of building something for the future, not necessarily expecting instant success in the first season, you look at Ten Hag or you look at Pochettino. And they're going to build you something. They're going to put some foundations in place. As Lars just said, Pochettino will get younger players in and will start to mould them into something. I think Ten Hag would do obviously something very, very similar. We know the Ajax model. The other managers that you're looking at, Lopetegui, Luis Enrique, are fantastic names that maybe can deal with the superstars. So there's a real divide, I think, in the way that Manchester United go. Thomas Tuchel, I think, is a ridiculous shout. I don't think that's going to happen in any way, shape or form.
Why not?
Well, it's a step down for one.
Okay. I mean, we could argue that, but ultimately...
it's a bigger club in name, and simple as that, but why would he leave? Chelsea's going to get bored.
No, but this is
Chelsea are not going out of business.
But this is the thing. It all depends on who buys Chelsea.
Yeah,
so it's not going to happen currently.
First thing you do as new owners of Chelsea, you come in and you give Tuchel a 5-year deal or something and say, right, let's get this ship steadied. Done and dusted. And so he's staying there.
But if they're there to basically buy a football stadium, and we'll come to Chelsea a little bit later on, and they're looking at it as an investment for property instead, and they say, you can stay as a manager, we'll give you a 5-year deal, but we're not going to buy any players at the amount that we've been buying them before, and he can't compete, he'll want to leave.
He's got enough in there already.
It's a big if, obviously.
Yeah. To rule Tuchel out. But the other two that you're talking about are big name managers that would be expected to be able to deal with big name players. So it's which way do Manchester United go? As Lars said, do you go down we're going to build something and put some new foundations in place, and that's Ten Hag or Pochettino, or we're going to go for the big names and keep signing superstars and hope we get away with it?
Lars, tell us about Erik Ten Hag next. Is he the right sort of character for Manchester United?
So he's another one who is primarily a first-team coach. I mean, he's someone who is used to working. Well, he's been in charge of the Bayern Munich second team. That's his experience outside of Holland. But he's used to working at Ajax, at a club that is, I'm sure, as we all know, is very well run, where you have people in various roles in that job who know exactly what direction the club is moving in.
And know what they're doing, Lars, would you say?
Well, I'd say so. And you have with Ajax, there's such a singularity of purpose and clarity of direction there. All the scouts they employ know exactly what an Ajax centre-half needs to be able to do. All the scouts will know exactly what kind of qualities Ajax looks for in midfielders. And half the players come through from the academy anyways. They've gotten the sort of fundamental principles of their play drilled into them from they were very young. Now, where I'm getting at with this is that as much as Ten Hag has done very admirable work at Ajax, turning them into a team that wins a lot of games and is very pleasing on the eye and has really punched above their weight in the Champions League, the question mark I suppose I would set to him is what happens when you take him out of that environment and put him in charge of a club where, half the squad hasn't been playing Ajax football since they were 12. Like, it's a very, very different context. And we've seen this before with managers who've been very, very successful at Ajax, have won trophies there. We've seen it with Frank de Boer, we've seen it with Peter Bosz, that they haven't quite managed to have quite the same results elsewhere. And that is a question mark I would have. And that's probably grossly unfair to him because he can only manage at the jobs he's been at. And at Ajax, he has done really, really well. But if I'm Man United and I can pick almost anyone, then that's something that'd be on my mind, certainly.
The only thing I would say to that is, Lars, that the players that he's going to manage at Manchester United will be significantly better than those other Ajax managers that have moved on. And they are all technically proficient. They are all technically superb. So if he can't get them to play in the way that he wants, with technical ability in sort of a similar Ajax way, then something has gone badly wrong. Because every single Manchester United player right now even though they're not playing great and they're not in great form, should easily be able to slot into that Ajax team one by one. That shouldn't be a problem because they're all technically good enough.
That's an interesting shout. I suspect. I wonder if it might be a little bit more complicated. I mean, you, of course, I'm sure you as a player could have slotted into any sort of type of style of play. Of course, being very, very intelligent and technically and gifted and tactically astute.
You've never seen Danny play.
So you're talking about the right person.
It's Danny Mills here, not Murphy, unfortunately.
That's very mean of you.
It's always like that.
So listen. I wonder if I think the job is different for a coach, put it that way. Coaching a group of players who have this in their backbones compared to a group of players who maybe hasn't played in that way before. I think that's a very different thing. And it also comes back to the fact of what kind of club Man United want to be, because he is someone, again, Erik ten Hag is not necessarily someone who's going to go in and be the manager with a capital N and tell everyone what we're doing and who we're signing and what we're, you know.
Do you think it would be a bit of a clear out, Lars, if it's Ten Hag that comes in? And getting rid of a lot of those big names.
I think that's possible, but I wonder if that's something that should happen anyway. If you look at the situation at the club, I think that there are some contracts that are expiring, if not this summer, then next summer.
But more so than if it was Lopetegui or Luis Enrique coming in.
Possibly. I mean, Luis Enrique is a Barcelona guy, so he's very much in that school of thought. I mean, when he was at Roma, he tried to turn Roma into Barcelona with some pretty mixed results. So that, again, stylistically would be a pretty big departure. Lopetegui comes across as someone who's a little bit more adaptable. But certainly, it's a fair shout with Ten Hag. I'm not sure I fully agree with you with the notion that every player currently at Manchester United could comfortably play the kind of football that Ajax play. I'm not sure I fully agree, and I think they'd have a real challenge there. Whereas with Pochettino will have learned some lessons, I think, from this year at Paris Saint-Germain about how to deal with some of the bigger names. And you have a really interesting crop of young players at United to begin with for him to work with there. So for me, that just seems like a more logical fit.
Do you think, just very quickly, that either Lopetegui or Enrique would be interested in going to Old Trafford, and could the club get them in?
I think Luis Enrique leaving the Spain job before the World Cup would be quite extraordinary. I mean, I don't exactly expect that to happen. So that would maybe they'd have to have some kind of temporary solution until the World Cup's been played. Lopetegui, I think, would see it as a step up from Sevilla.